A little bit. We also from California. We have everybody's calling from California. David from California is on. You're on with Dennis and Matt.
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I thought this might tie into the last call because what's listed here is that your point is evidences that are required for God cannot be provided, but aren't obstacles for belief.
Yeah, I had a hard time kind of trying to explain my point to the screener there.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, give it to us.
Well, I'm going to try to. First thing I want to say here is that I'm not going to argue for the existence of God. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to be able to manifest him here in front of you. That's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, I figured that much from the first sentence.
Right. What I want to try to see if I can do, if it's agreeable, is to prevent a kind of form of extreme skepticism.
Okay, you're already off on the wrong foot.
Why is that?
Well, skepticism is skepticism, and what skepticism is a desire to have one's beliefs conform to reality as much as possible and to find and make use of the tools that produce the most consistent results toward that goal. What I hear often when people say extreme skepticism is they're suggesting something closer to cynicism where you just won't believe no matter how much evidence I present, when the truth is I'll believe anything provided there's sufficient evidence to warrant belief.
No.
Okay.
No, nothing like that. What I'm talking about is a kind of a skepticism that antedated anything that you find when the cynics took over the symposium or anything like that. I'm talking about a pre-Socratic form of skepticism.
Yeah, that's not me. There's a really great lecture from QED that A.C. Grayling gave on the history of skepticism and how the term changed and how the skeptics of old. That's not what modern skepticism. When I talk about skepticism,
I understand. I'm not taking a modern. Let's forget about that term. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Let's talk about the limitations of logic and of what the people that I'm bringing in citation here are people like Chomsky. I want to bring Wittgenstein into this, and I want to talk about propositional logics. I want to talk about the limitations of the syllogism, and I want to talk about the irreducibility of consciousness. And I want to do this. I want to set this up first with a premise that I'm going to deliver to you.
And you're going to do all this in how much time? Because the show's only an hour and a half long.
A couple of minutes. I'm going to need a little bit of runway, probably less than the amount of time that you spent talking about that with that fellow about his experiences on drugs, which I think is actually kind of a waste of time and an easy argument to overcome. But anyway, what I want to start with is to say that evidence of the type that you are requiring will always be insufficient and will always be incomplete.
Stop.
Because they all are going to appear as products of thought, which I think you can agree with.
Stop.
And let me
David,
finish the
No, David, no. There's a reason why I'm asking you to stop. Because if you say something that is inaccurate or that I'm not in agreement with, and I let you talk for 5 minutes, then we got to go all the way back to the beginning. You said evidence of the type I would require. I don't know what you mean by that because I don't know what the claim is. And if the claim is a God exists, I've said on many occasions, I have no idea what kind of evidence I would.
I'm not saying that. The type that you used before, let's use as our criteria the Aristotelian syllogism, which you have utilized on this show before. Can we use that as the criteria?
That's not evidence. That's a structure for a logical argument. You said evidence of the type I would require. I would like for you to explain to me what you mean by that.
Well, sir, what do you mean by you want to have evidence of God? What form would that take?
As I've said countless times, and just 30 seconds ago, I have no idea.
Yes, you do.
Okay, goodbye. You're not going to fucking call in and pretend like I'm lying and that I haven't said this over and over again. The fact of the matter is, if you go back to Arthur C. Clarke, you get any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. The point about skepticism is to have an epistemology that makes sure that your beliefs are actually warranted by evidence. If you tell me what your claim is, I can do my best to describe what kind of evidence I might consider convincing of that, both in quality and in quantity. But if you have not actually made a claim, I certainly can't tell you what sort of evidence is. And if we're talking about whether or not a God exists, even if after we defined a God, I may not be able to tell you what kind of evidence that would be required, because that would put me in the position of being able to tell the difference between a God and something else that I don't understand. And that is not skepticism, that is arrogance. That is the special thinking that makes people think that there's a God who has designed everything for them and reveals things to them specifically. Of course, my God belief is warranted because I'm fucking special. Well, I'm not here to pretend like I'm special. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. That requires that I set up barriers so that I do not gullibly fall into certain beliefs, which I suspect you were going to go down the road of saying that's extreme skepticism. My answer to this consistently for years has been, I do not know what sort of evidence it would take to convince me that there's a God. But under most of the normative definitions of God, that God should absolutely know what should convince me and should be capable of producing it. And the fact that he hasn't means that either he does not exist or does not want me to know he exists. Either way, it's not my problem. And when you call up and say, evidence of the sort that you would expect, and I say, I don't know what that is, and your immediate response is to say, yes, you do, well, fuck you. I got other callers. Goodbye.
Wow. Yeah.